Hello and welcome to Outland Woodworks. My name is Shane and today we are going to be looking at the JessEm 05010 remote power switch, installing that on the RT-800 router extension for the Harvey table saws. Let's get to it. Okay, the tools you're going to want to follow my install of this. Now this is particularly applicable to the RT-800 extension for the Harvey table saw. You could use this in other applications, I'm sure, but your mileage may vary. Now what I'm going to use to install this, with the ST-1500 sliding crosscut sled that I got with this, I conveniently had this little kit of bolts and nuts and washers left over that I didn't need. These are for saw stop. So if you've got the ST-1500, you should have this available if you didn't install it on a saw stop. If you don't have this, or you don't have the fence or whatever, what I'm using here, these are M6 by 1.5 millimeter hex head bolts, lock washer and flat washer, one for each. I'm using a 13/64 drill bit. You're going to need the Allen wrench that fits your bolts. In this particular case, we are using the 5 millimeter from our set that came with the saw. You're going to need some type of clamp. I would recommend one that is padded. You're going to need a drill. You're going to need an M6 by 1 tap set. Now you can do this without the tap, and the way you would do that, you would want a longer bolt, and you would probably want to go to a 1/4 inch bit, and you can put this all the way through and put a nut on the other side of it. You would want another flat washer if you did that, so you would end up with 2 flat washers. So now we're going to move over to the table, and I'm going to show you how I've decided to install this. So the way I've decided to mount this, and it's a little tricky no matter which way you look at it, we've got on the back of this, we have our 2 plugs that this power switch will operate. We have 2 legs in our way. We have a door that needs to open and shut. So the way that I think I've decided that will work for my particular install is where this leg is and this cord comes out. I'm going to put that until the cord just almost touches that leg. Now feeling from the back and having looked under there, I can tell you that now those 2 cord plugs are clear. If you try to install it on the other end that way, your legs are going to cover up your slots. So I'm going to get this arranged, and again, I'm taking the power cord where the nut is, and I'm moving it over and putting not quite a finger space between the leg and that wire, and I will pull this down probably about a 32nd of an inch, and I'm going to clamp this onto the side of the table and mark it. So we've got it clamped in place now, and making sure that it's not above our tabletop. It is probably about a 32nd or so, maybe a little less, below our tabletop there. Got it nice and square. I'm going to double check. I'm going to look behind just to make sure that my plugs are clear of the leg, and they are. My wire is not touching the leg, so I will still be able to freely adjust that leg. And now I'm going to take a scribe, and you can use a pencil or whatever you have, or a marker, and we are going to mark these spots. Now we're going to remove our clamp, and we have 2 very clearly marked holes for that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm taking a punch, and you don't have to do this. This is really up to you. I do recommend it. You can take a regular punch with a hammer and lightly tap, and just basically give you two little spots so your bit doesn't walk when you start drilling. This one here I've gotten a little bit over to the right. I don't think that will be an issue. I think we'll be all right there. Worst case, I may have to work the bracket just a little bit and make sure that the bolts are good. You could also do this with the bracket on there, completely at your discretion. So now we are going to chuck up our drill bit and cover up the bottom here just so we don't get metal shavings all over everything, and start on our holes. So I have some 3-in-1 oil, and you can use any kind of a cutting lubricant. You could probably get away with WD-40. The trick here is, now this particular bit, this is just high-speed steel, and I don't know how well it's going to do with this. I don't have a carbide in this size. So I'm just going to take my time, and I'm going to let the bit do the cutting. If you just nail it and just start grinding into it, you're going to ruin your bit, and you're not going to get a hole drilled. So just let the bit do the cutting. It's going to take a minute. We're going to give ourselves a little bit of oil on the end of this. I'm going to go ahead and drip a little bit on there. In a perfect world, I probably would have done this with this off, but I didn't really know where everything was going to land at. So, and we are going to find our spot that we had marked. There it is. And again, we're just going to take it easy. We're going to let just a little bit of pressure. We're going to let the bit do the drilling. It's just light force. I'm not jamming on it. You will just completely trash your bit if you do that from the heat. I'm going to try to keep it as straight as possible while we do this. I have started my hole there. I'm going to go ahead and give it a little more oil. Keep that bit nice and cool. Now, if you start to see smoke coming out from that, you're just going too fast and too hard. We're getting close, and I want to take it easy because I don't want to just ram it through the other side. Go! Like that. Now, in the conversion from the M6 bolts to the drill bit, I went to a standard size or an imperial size drill bit, which is just slightly smaller than it should be. So I did take it easy not to move the drill around and wobble my hole out, but a little bit of that probably won't hurt because this is just a little bit too small for how it should be. And we're going to get over to our other one. About to go through. Okay, there's our two holes. Now we're going to grab a little rag and clean that up and get some air and blow that out. And then we're going to tap it out. This is M6 by 1, and this is determined by the bolt that I'm using. If you're using different bolts, you'll have to get your own tap and find out what size bit you need. That's just what I have and what I'm using. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on my tap. Get it started nice and straight. Work it about a half a turn and then rotate back, and this lets your chips clear inside what you're cutting. They're pretty much right there to the end. I'm going to go ahead and run it just to the top of the threads on the tap. You're backing this out as you get towards the end. I like to put a little out pressure on it just to make sure that it doesn't turn and accidentally bite and gulp the threads on it. Again, with all this, just take your time. Take our air, blow that out. Make sure you are wearing glasses for this. You do not want a piece of metal in your eye. I have had one in my eye before, long ago. And it is not fun sitting in a chair watching a eye doctor stick a needle in your eyeball. Not worth it. Okay, we're going to take one of our bolts and see how we did. Beautiful. Now, because these bolts are just about the same size as the hole in the bracket, width-wise, if I did end up getting this a little bit off, I may have to slightly file one of those holes over, but we will see there. I never did like the way these tap holders hold these, because I've used several of these throughout my life, and I think all of them did that exact same thing. Just if you use them for a little bit, they just loosen up. Okay, clean that up. Take our air and clean that out. Now there is little burrs where that cut. So I'm going to take a very small flat metal file. You might be able to do this with some emery cloth or just a small piece of medium grit sandpaper. You don't want to get the whole top. You just want to clean the burrs off of the threads that got cut. Again, we don't want to damage the threads inside. Just want to knock the burr off the top, which doesn't take much. And I recommend not feeling it with your finger. Get a cloth or something and use to feel if the burr is still there, because those are razor sharp and they will cut you. Feels very good now. Okay, so now we're going to get our bolts together and see how this all lines up. Go for our first hole here. And our second. And I'm hoping I will not have to modify this at all. And it looks like I may have to do a little bit of filing on that. When I initially made those marks, as I was mentioning, that hole was just slightly off. Yeah, that's going to cross thread there. So all I'm going to do, again, if you do a better job of doing your marks, you won't get this. But I'm going to take a file and I'm going to make that hole just a little bit bigger on that side because the hole here is just a little bit too far in. So we filed out our hole just a little bit on the inside there to let those bolts come together a little further. And now we are going to run them down. Not going to crank on them just yet, just getting them close. That still is a little bit snug. I probably could have filed on that a little bit more to make a better fit. And we want to make sure we are not over our tabletop with this. And there we have it. Nice and secure. Close enough that if I need, I can bump that with my leg to shut it off. Everything is clear. Access to our plugs on the back. We can zip tie this cord up, get it behind here. So that wraps it up for installing this. This is how I choose to install it. There are many ways you could do this. I just wanted to show you how I did it. So if you got anything out of this video, consider a thumbs up. If you like seeing content like this, consider subscribing. If you know someone that might be interested in this or this kind of content, consider sharing. And until then, we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.